All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind on time, but my name is Nicole Jackson, and this is April's first, I believe, story project interview. And I'm excited to get started with the conversation. So, Black and National Parks Week was created back in August of 2020 to amplify, highlight, celebrate the contributions and experiences of everyday Black people visiting US national parks. And I think we're at like 420 something national park units currently. So I've been creating a story project to just get interviews about Black people's experiences. And hopefully, it's an opportunity for me to learn more, but also for others to share what they're experiencing as far as joy, knowledge, recreation, things of that nature. So I'm really excited for today's conversation slash interview with Angie V. I am based in Central Ohio, so we'll get to learn a little bit about our special guests' kind of travels, adventures, where they're based, and how they got into their interest with national parks. So I'm gonna have Angie V join us right now. If you'd like to come on camera and unmute yourself. Hello.
Hi,
It's so good to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Like just even looking at your website, YouTube channel, all of that stuff. It seems like you've done a lot of traveling, a lot of adventuring, and I'm excited to kind of learn about your, I guess, more so nature connection journey, how that started for you. Um, and yeah, how it's transformed over the years. So if you'd first like to introduce yourself, and then we can get into how all of this adventuring began.
Sure. So hi everyone. I am Angie and I'm originally from San Diego, California, born and raised, ex-military, ex-army. So I'm a veteran. I travel in my van, Peter Parker. I've had been living in my van for 3.5 years, almost 4 years, and actually just have put him into storage because I'm moving permanently to Alaska. I'm an Alaska resident for the past year, but I've been still kind of doing a little bit of traveling. So this year I'm going to be staying in Alaska over the winter. So I have put my home into storage and I'm in Washington now. I'll be heading on
Mhm.
to the ferry and driving to Alaska once I get off the ferry to work. I am a tour director in Alaska, and I actually take people on tours, mainly cruise ship guests who want to do land tours, and we just kind of take them and show them the sights in Alaska. And this will be my fourth year working in Alaska.
Awesome. That's so cool. So do you have I guess memories or childhood memories of nature outings, nature experiences that you can kind of reference or go back to that brought you joy or made you feel really excited to do more connecting in the outdoors?
Um, yes, I mean, as a child, we were always outside, and that's just a
Hmm.
generational thing for me.
Yeah.
Growing up in the 70s, that was what we did. We got outside and
Hmm.
we played outside. And being in San Diego, the school that I was in, we would go on field trips. So we went whale watching. We went to the Cabrillo National Monument. So for me, being outdoors and seeing things started very young, and
Hmm.
just kind of continued on for a while. There was a big gap in that because,
Yeah.
of course, adulting and then
Hmm.
trying to figure out the balance to re-enter and reconnect with nature, which I feel I've done very
Yeah.
well now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Is there anything you really enjoyed doing when you were younger outdoors?
Oh man, being I don't know, when I think about my childhood, because we were spending a lot of times outdoors, we would walk to the park, we would it was a time when, not to be nostalgic, but it was a time when
Hmm.
you could walk down the streets and there were apple trees and there were berry trees. And so we would pick fruit and we would, go hang out in the park, ride our
Hmm.
bikes. And being that I was from San Diego, we were at the beach a lot. So water was very important for us. So
Yeah.
we would go to the beach and hang out at the beach, collect shells, and
Hmm.
just there was just so much to do in the outdoors or being
Yeah.
outside. And my family were very into that. So we were always going somewhere that had to do
Hmm.
with either a park or the beach and nature.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
my memories are definitely lots of family reunions outdoors, like at parks, a lot of city parks, because I grew up in the Midwest. So, not the like more forested areas, but like city parks, up the block, or sometimes we would go to a state park every now and then. But those are my memories. If there wasn't any outdoor time that I can remember that didn't involve food or like barbecuing.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So in terms of, I guess you're going into your adult years, like how has your relationship with nature changed? Or have you noticed anything major with your relationship with the outdoors?
So for me, as a teenager, I always had a camera. My grandfather gave
Hmm.
me my first camera when I was 14. So I was always taking pictures outside and I had friends and we would go hang out and I was part of like the yearbook staff and all of those things. And I feel like that helped me with nature, being outside
Hmm.
with my photography. But as I
Yeah.
got older and I had to work more, I feel like I lost touch with the connection of being outside and being outdoors because, I was working so much and just doing the everyday adult thing. But the reconnection for me occurred in I said 2009 was my first time
Hmm.
going to Hawaii. And I did all of the
Hmm.
outdoor things, the
Hmm.
hiking and things like that. But um, I entered into a relationship that was bad, ended up being an abusive relationship. And for
Hmm.
me, the out was going outside.
Yeah.
And that actually, I always say that that saved my life, going out, being in the outdoors, because um, that relationship was both physical and emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
And being outside with my dog, Peter Parker, and
Hmm.
Aaliyah, I had two dogs. I would just take them on walks. And then that escalated to me renting, a vehicle because I lived in Las Vegas at the time and going out to Red Rock Canyon and
Hmm.
eventually up to, Mount Zion. And
Hmm.
so I was able to reconnect with nature on a more personal level. And from there, it just flourished because I would go hiking and then I just wanted more and I wanted more. And
Yeah.
then I learned to do other things and kayaking and canoeing and different things while I was in Las Vegas. And all of that kind of reconnected me to
Hmm.
nature in a way that was very meaningful as
Yeah.
opposed to in my childhood, we're just kids and we're being outside. We don't really think about nature in that way.
Right.
We're just doing our thing. So
Hmm.
I think that was the pivotal moment. And that
Yeah.
actually helped with the healing process and to get out of that relationship and begin
Yeah.
anew. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with a lot of that. I always, growing up for me, going through abuse and foster care, nature was my go-to for healing. It was my first therapist. It was nature. It still
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
in so many ways. And having that understanding that nature doesn't expect anything from you, it's just like such a freeing feeling. Like I'm just like, oh, this is what it feels like to be nurtured and to be loved and to have, excitement and joy,
Exactly.
um, without, the judging the, and even like helping you get through the trying times and the grief and all of those layers of emotions. It allows you to give yourself more grace as you're going through those things. 'Cause a lot of it is just
Yeah.
like why is this happening to me? Like, I don't want this like energy and like any of that stuff. And then nature's just like there to just, let you know that everything's going to be okay. And we're going to work through it and you'll
Yeah,
have those beautiful moments. So
definitely.
I appreciate that so, so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that. I know it's really personal. Um, and I'm hoping that that resonates with others. And just knowing that there are so many healing benefits with having a relationship with nature. And I resonate also with what you said of it saving your life. Like I literally feel like that's what it did for me too. So with the, darkness, the light
Yeah,
shows up, and that's what, I want to put more of my energy into having more of those meaningful and beautiful moments when I'm outside and being able to
definitely.
share that with others too. So thank you again for sharing that experience. Um when do you can you recall, because you did mention a few national park sites,
Mhm.
can you recall your first national park?
Um, trying to
And
think.
if not, which
It's
one can you
been
remember visiting like earlier on?
earlier on would
Hmm.
be maybe Smoky Mountains National Park. Might have been earlier on.
Hmm.
Um, because
Anything about that, yeah, park that sticks out to you from that visit?
I was with friends and we took a trip from Florida because when I got out of the military I lived in Florida for 18 years and
Hmm.
we took a trip up there and we just walking on the part of the trail that separates Georgia from
Hmm.
Tennessee and being able to
Hmm.
stand on that line and walking a little bit on the AT and seeing all of the through hikers kind of
Yeah.
flying by us, to get to their next point. And just the whole beauty of it all. The trees and the trees, the views, and we were there. I'm trying to think what time of year we were there. I feel like it was April or May,
Hmm.
maybe. So it was just very green. Things were blooming. It was
Yeah.
just a very good experience
Mm-hmm.
with friends who had never, we had never, who had never been there. Kind of all of
Hmm.
us kind of living in that moment together,
Hmm.
and seeing things. And we actually went to I can never pronounce it right. Nanata. It's a national forest that's attached to it. Nanata,
Oh, is it the Natchez? Am I saying that
no,
right? Maybe not.
Nantahala or something like that. I can never pronounce it correctly, but
So
there's
it's a national forest connected to
yeah, to the area.
Smokies.
And we
Hmm.
went and there were so many waterfalls. And there, I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
we just drove and there's like all of these waterfalls. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
whoa, like it was like the best experience as a photographer and also as a
Yeah.
nature lover to kind of see that. So we did a whole chasing waterfalls day where we were just
Hmm.
going from
Hmm.
waterfall to waterfall, which was really good. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what got you into photography? Like what was your draw for taking
Um,
photos?
so my camera, the camera that my grandfather gave me, I just wanted to learn how to use it. And so I took a photography class in high school. And so developing and all of those things,
Hmm.
processing, developing, and being outside and be able to take photographs and kind of capture the moment.
Yeah.
Um, Capture the moment and try to, so I can show other people. I always say that I like to create digital memories
Hmm.
that I can use later on, but I love to also evoke emotions from people. And if
Hmm.
I can capture something in a way for how I'm feeling in that present moment and be able to share that with
Hmm.
somebody, I always think that that's a wonderful thing. So,
Yeah.
photography, I've had a camera since I was 14. And so
Hmm.
I just, I take it everywhere. And now I'm trying to be more creative with it, which is why I have my YouTube channel. So I try to be more
Hmm.
creative and creating more vlogs and things that intertwine cinematic.
Yeah.
shots with my photography and tell the story. So
Hmm.
yeah, photography is a very important factor in my life. Yeah, it's part of the
What have
healing
your
process.
what have your kind of thinking about national parks as a whole? When did you learn about the purpose of national parks? Like, do you feel like you've always known, or is that something you've learned over time? And how has that transformed your relationship to, I guess, place and like where you travel and why you travel there?
I feel like, earlier on, just going to monuments and things like that growing up, that I was told that the space was there to preserve history and for future generations.
Hmm.
And I mean, I still am very grateful that we have these spaces that have been preserved and
Hmm.
are helping with, I always say, because I'm a wildlife person,
Excuse me. Hmm.
that these parks are helping to preserve wildlife as well, because we have
Hmm.
so many spaces that so many cities that don't have green spaces,
Yeah.
and they're pushing out the wildlife and messing with the habitats of our wildlife. So to have these national parks and preserves and be
Hmm.
able to um, help with the preservation and
Yeah.
conservation of the lands, I think is very important. But um, I know also that when the parks were created, they weren't
Yeah.
created for us, right?
Hmm.
So they weren't
Hmm.
created for us as Black and brown people. And so I feel like it's very important for us as a culture to learn about the national parks and to use those national parks, because they're for everybody.
Hmm.
Even if they weren't originally designed for us, that
Yeah.
they're there now, and we need to take advantage of using those
Yeah.
facilities. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely important and continues to be part of a lot of conversations, especially around visitation and access and um, diversity and yeah, all of those different topics. And I feel like that's another like go into a rant right now, but just thinking about like the collection of data for like knowing, I don't know, doing a better job of like collecting information around demographics. And I feel like it's not that Black people don't want to visit national parks. It's so many other more complex things that we have to think about and consider
Yes.
when we go to these spaces. So it's not that we don't want to, it's just because of history and exclusion and racism and all of these different things.
Yeah.
It's we have to be more mindful. So it's interesting how with the start of the pandemic and like how that got people more like visiting more of like regional like local parks, but then also still helping us think about visitation as a whole and are we providing more resources and opportunities and pathways for more Black people to visit national parks because we always hear about the major ones, but then we have a lot of urban national park sites that connect to our history as Black people. And um, I kind of want to ask for you, was there any particular African American history that interested you as it relates to national parks, or do you feel like that's something you're still um, wanting to learn more about?
I think that's something I want to learn more about. I know,
Hmm.
I mean, I watch other
Hmm.
creators and other people who do speak about the history of the parks, especially the ones in the South and going up the up the Eastern corridor. So it would be nice to be able to learn more about the
Hmm.
parks, because for me, I just I think being an outdoor enthusiast
Hmm.
and also a photographer, it just drives me to the parks because of the beauty of the parks. But
Yeah.
um, it's funny not to see us there, and me being in Alaska,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
less so. So it's
Which is
really
interesting
good.
because that has the most parks, national park
Yeah.
sites, is
Yeah, we have like
Alaska. So
13. Yeah. And so yeah, it's always nice to see somebody of color on the trail and
hmm
on it in any of the parks and to
yeah.
give that head nod or that hey,
hmm
I see you. That acknowledgement is
Yeah.
always wonderful. And for me in Alaska, I'll walk up to people and say, "I'm so happy to see you here,"
hmm
and they know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, "Yeah, it's good to be here." You know, so
Aw.
that whole acknowledgement between us, I love us for that.
I would totally probably start tearing up if you to be like, yes, yes, it is. Thank you. Like just that warm, fuzzy feeling from, yeah,
Yeah.
just getting that acknowledgement, but also just seeing other Black people enjoy
Oh yeah,
the spaces
yeah.
is just, yeah, it's awesome. Are you, I guess, in terms of like, what's your go-to when you visit a national park? Like, do you have a routine? Do you like spontaneity? Do you like to go like to the visitor center first? Like, what's your kind of system of experiencing and exploring national parks?
So for me, I always find a trail
hmm
that I'm gonna hike on, and I usually go for a hike. Being when I was in the van,
hmm
it was wonderful because I would go specifically to go camping. You know, so find a good camp spot, find a good trail to hike on. Um, being I worked in Tennessee for 6 months as a tour guide,
Oh,
and
nice. hmm
we mainly took people into the Smoky Mountains, into the national park. So going to see like the different areas where the old pioneers were at, learning about the indigenous people that lived on
hmm
those lands. So I want to learn the history, but I'm mainly to I want to go and I want to experience nature in a way
Yeah.
that is different for each of the parks.
hmm
So I always visit the visitor center because I'm a magnet collector and also
I love
t-shirts. So I
that.
have like all these t-shirts from national parks. And if I find a good book that has something to
hmm
do with that specific region, then I'll buy a book for it. So
Nice.
and that way it gives back to the park as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have a routine, but I do try to hit different. I try to visit the visitor center every time I go. I try to
hmm
learn a little bit about the history and definitely all about the wildlife and the nature that
Yeah.
is comprised within the park. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite um type of wildlife or species or love for
Bears.
everyone?
I love all wildlife, but bears
hmm
would probably be brown. I mean, black bears would be my favorite. I always
hmm
consider them to be my totem um, spirit animal, and so I love all the wildlife, but the
hmm
big, the big game. But I mean, I've been in national parks where there's snakes. I've been in national parks
hmm
where there's chuckwallas. I've
Mm,
been in and just kind of like just everything. Yeah,
yeah.
just everything. But the bears are going to be like at the top of that. But
hmm
just to see wildlife doing their thing,
Yeah.
not bothered by us for the majority of the time. They're
hmm
just kind of like living their animal lives in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I do love going and trying to find wildlife in the national park.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm definitely so my go-to is birds. I've been birding for the past 15 years and any place where I'm like, okay, well, obviously birds are everywhere, but like even
Yeah.
more so at national parks, especially
Mhm.
with like endemic species or like endangered
Yeah.
species, like learning more about, protecting them and their habitat. But I'm obsessed with animals in general. So like I remember when I went to Badlands National Park. Oh my goodness. I first of all I wanted to bird more, but it was just hot because it was in June.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was like boiling. But then also we went to just driving around a group of us and we did stop to see the um what are they called? Not groundhogs.
Prairie
What am I
dogs.
thinking of? Yeah, the prairie dogs. And
Yeah.
I have an obsession with black-footed ferrets. So I was kind
Okay.
of sad that I couldn't see the black-footed ferrets, but
Mm,
knowing that they live in similar habitat, but there was a point where we stopped and saw so many of the holes of the prairie dogs, and then like
yeah.
out in the distance, there was coyotes like chasing them. Like it was so
Wow.
wild. And I was just like, this is amazing. And you can hear like we were, some that were closer to the road. So like when you were getting closer
Yeah.
to the prairie dogs, they would do their call.
Hmm.
And it was getting louder and louder, but like we're all just fascinated and like taking
Yeah.
photos and videos and stuff. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
just like doing their thing. It was so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I love wildlife. It's like the best thing ever just to kind of see them just doing their thing. Everything, yeah,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah. I think I would be amazed to see because there's so many places I've yet to go, but like in experiencing wildlife in particular, like
yeah.
caribou or elk or moose, like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
would be my jaw would be like probably wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
say anything. They're massive.
That's how
They are
most of them
massive.
are, my guests when I take them and I say, well, what animal is it that you want to see? And they say, moose or caribou, elk,
Hmm.
whatever. And when they see it, it's like, I don't know, I just feel so rewarded when I see the joy in their face when they see that
Yeah.
animal that they've been wanting to see in the wild and they finally
Yeah.
get to see that animal. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, I've seen all of those animals multiple times, and every time I see one, it's like it's the very
Hmm.
first time. It's like that's the first
Right?
time I've ever
Yeah.
seen it. Yeah.
That's how I am with birds. I like squeal. Like I'm like a little kid, and people are like, "I'm sure you've seen this bird 1,000 times." I'm like, "Yes, but also it's amazing because they're here. Like you're not going to get
Yeah.
the same bird everywhere, so
Right. Yeah.
it's for
Definitely.
sure an experience." And then when they do their like like courtship dances and rituals and stuff, or they sing, or they call, or like they're taking care of babies, I'm like, oh, I just it's just the cutest thing. As you can see, I'm getting really giddy thinking about. Can't wait to go back outside. It is currently April, so April is it's spring, obviously, and I think about the migration of things, and nature's coming back alive from its dormancy of winter. And is there anything in particular, kind of like a nature phenomenon that you've experienced through your photography or through a national park visit?
Oh,
And I'm thinking of like, fireflies or like
yeah.
butterflies migrating, things like that.
I haven't really. I feel like I'm always missing it. Like I'm always like, because I went to Joshua Tree
Mm,
before I left California, and I'm
hmm.
looking for the cacti bloom. I'm looking for it
Oh
everywhere, and
yeah.
and
Hmm.
then the week after I left, after I went to the park, I see all these pictures of the cacti bloom, and I'm like, I feel like I'm always missing it. But
Right.
this week, this weekend, my sister's going to take me to Mount Rainier
Oh,
National Park,
nice.
and I've never
Yeah.
been. And I've
That
been
sounds
seeing
amazing.
wildflowers, so I'm hoping to catch some kind of super bloom when we
Yeah.
go over the weekend. That would be like wonderful. But I always feel like I'm always missing things. I mean, the only thing that I can really think of as far as seasons changing and me seeing
Hmm.
a lot of is being in Alaska, um, seeing the migration of the salmon. So I
Oh
do get
yeah.
the salmon migrations every year,
Hmm.
and that is amazing to see. And also the movement, and nature is just so cunning because when you think of the salmon migrations, the eagles follow the salmon. So we begin
Yeah.
as soon as right before the salmon are about to come into the rivers and streams, we start to
Hmm.
see multitudes of bald eagles coming in as well. So I think that would
Yeah.
be the closest thing would be to see the salmon coming in for spawning and seeing the eagles come
I
in
mean,
because of I always think of our circle of life and the circle life of
yeah.
nature and how when the salmon come in and they're creating their nets their
Mm-hmm.
nests so that they can, or reds, so that they can spawn. And then the eagles, the bears are coming in, the berries
Mm-hmm.
are starting to bloom. The bears start off with the berries and then they
Yep.
move on to the salmon, and then the salmon is left behind. The eagles eat and everything decays back into the earth, fertilizing the earth. And then that whole
Mm-hmm.
cycle of dormancy, the bears going to sleep, and then the salmon, it's just kind of like the whole circle of life with nature,
Yeah.
and different places. But I think that would be the salmon runs coming in through the
Yeah.
park. Yeah.
That sounds so, I would, it's like a movie. It's like you're getting to see a movie every day.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. That, and I
the way
think
you're
about
even
that
explaining
too.
like the season changing and stuff, I have these visualizations of moments that I've had throughout my lifetime up until this point of my life. And like thinking about all those moments where I just wasn't expecting to be so in awe and
Yeah.
like, this is an actual thing. Like, and it happens
Yeah.
every, season or every year or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
even experience a percentage of that and then be able to recall and like have a
Mhm.
memory of it and
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
similar reaction, like your body, your spirit, your mind, like
Mhm.
it's so inspiring. But then that's what makes me more excited for future adventures because you never
Yeah.
really know what's going to show up in nature. And it's just like, yep, you thought I was boring.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to show
definitely.
you.
Right. And I think that you said it like perfectly, awe. I feel like
Hmm.
nature puts us in a perpetual state of awe. Like
Yeah.
we're always experiencing these beautiful things when we're out
Mhm.
and when we're in nature and in the outdoors. It's just ongoing cycle. Yeah. Never
Yeah.
ending. Yeah.
So what's on your list, I guess, moving forward and thinking about, I guess, the rest of this year or even just in the future? Do
Mhm.
you have a bucket list of parks that you're interested in, or you kind of just go with the flow as far as, whatever's available, what you have time for?
Usually it's whatever's available, whatever I have time for. I
Hmm.
do have places like I would love to get to Glacier National Park. I still
Hmm.
haven't been able to visit Yosemite or Sequoia.
Hmm.
So those are on my list as well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just whatever because
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I'm in the national parks all the time, especially
Hmm.
being in Alaska and being a guide. We
Yeah.
visit, I mean, I've been to six of the national parks in Alaska,
Wow. That's
already.
awesome.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like I'm always in the national park at some point, or another. But Glacier National Park is one of those that has been on my
Mhm.
list. Um, Gosh, there's so many. I would love to go back to Death Valley
Mm,
because now that California's been getting all that rain and the
yep.
lake is back, I would love to be
Yep.
able to photograph that.
Yeah.
Um, there's
That's
just
where they have the super blooms too, right? Those
yes,
happen
yeah,
at
the super
Death
blooms
Valley.
there. Yeah, down in Death Valley, even out to the Badlands. I would
Hmm.
love to get into the Dakotas and see. I
Yeah.
mean, there's just so many. There's just so many. And over in Hawaii, I would love to be able to go back to Hawaii or over to
Hmm.
Guam or even
Hmm.
down to the Virgin Islands. There's just so many. There's so
Yeah.
many parks, and it's like, yeah,
Are.
I would love to
When I tell
experience
people there
all of
it's in
them.
the hundreds, they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "It's in the
Yeah,
hundreds."
right. Because people only
It
hear
is in
about
the hundreds.
the few, right? They only hear about
Right.
the main ones that everyone's going to. I'm like, no, there's so many more.
Yeah.
And then there's the unit to it, the monuments, the
Hmm.
preserves, it's like there's so much. There's so much to
Yep.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned the magnets, and my go-to is definitely the stamps. So like when I found out
Okay.
that they have the books for the
Yeah.
passport books, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I am on it. I got my stamp, go to the visitor center, but I also like magnets, like keychains, t-shirts. Every now and then I'll find like books, depending on like for instance, the Mammoth Cave visit, they had the history of Bransford family, and there is actually the park ranger descendant of the guides, the cave guides, that still works at the park. He's in his like 80s, I think.
Wow.
And he works part-time. And I'm just like, how, like that blows my mind. But the grave site of his like great, grandfather is in Mammoth Cave as well. So like even just thinking about that history of like thinking about an African American I don't I'm if I'm recalling, I think they were enslaved, mapped out this whole cave system, like literally, and like helped bring tourism and like we've done so many awesome things with um kind of bringing light to these public lands as a culture and like really having an understanding of like, oh, I feel more connected because we have this history. So knowing that there's people that came before me, and that are even, part of the park system now that are continuing to share these stories and create memories of their own and build that um kind of legacy. And I just feel so proud and like, yay, that's so awesome. So I'm so excited I'm doing this story project. Every time I'm like doing a view, I get even more excited because I'm just like, this is not something I ever experienced. Always thought about it, but like
Yeah.
I'm like, I know there's more Black people out there doing amazing things in national parks, and like I just want to hear more about it. And I'm like, well, I guess I have to be that person to, start that. So
Yeah.
knowing even more so like with each interview, each story, like I'm learning so much more about myself, about other people across different regions, like geographically, but then also like you were saying earlier, like just like thinking about nature as being very interconnected, and it's the same with us and our stories and in our connections to community, but also to the land. Like, oh, it's so layered, but I'm so glad
Yeah.
I'm doing this. So I very, very, very much appreciate you taking time to chat with me and share more about what you've experienced, what you have going on, what you're thinking about doing moving forward. And I guess one final question would be, what advice, I guess, would you give to anyone who's interested in doing similar things, whether it's like creating a YouTube channel about their experiences, visiting a
Yeah.
national park, or wanting to get out to, have more nature outdoor experiences.
Um, I feel like just do it.
Hmm.
One of
Hmm.
the things that we are, in my encounters when I talk to people, especially like the group that I have, the Girls Who Hike Florida group that I have for women of color, the apprehension is they're scared of nature. They're scared to get outdoors. We don't feel like we belong there, right? And
Hmm.
so I have to kind of just tell you, we do belong. If you're scared of certain things, learn more about it. I feel when you have the knowledge, when you do the research and you have the knowledge, it gives you power and it helps to take away that fear. So if you're afraid to walk on the trail, start by walking in your neighborhood. Start by
Hmm.
going to your local park, you know, join a group of people and go out to the national park together. Um, find what works for you and what's best for you. And that's the path that you need to take when you're
Hmm.
going to explore the national parks. If you're not a cold person, don't come to
Yeah.
Alaska to come on the trails, start in Florida at the Everglades or,
Hmm.
somewhere where it's warm. Don't go too far out of your comfort zone in the
Yeah.
beginning until you can get your feet on the ground
Hmm.
and you know exactly what it is that you want to do. But I also feel that being outside in nature is like I said, healing is something that connects us to not only ourselves, but to others in the world around us. It allows us to be able to see different cultures
Hmm.
and understand about our history, and create memories
Yeah.
for ourselves and for others. So if you want to get out and you're trying to see the national park, research the parks go to the national park website or follow
Hmm.
someone like Nicole that
Yeah.
knows and is kind of working in those areas and learn more about um, what is going on in the national parks and just kind
Hmm.
of just do it. I feel like once you step out a little bit of your comfort
Hmm.
zone, you'll love the outdoors. It's addicting. It's something that
Right.
changes on a daily basis, but it's something that you can connect deep within yourself and make it relative to the life around you. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know, I just feel like if you want to go outside, then you can start small, and then work your way up, but you have to get out there to do it. You can't say, "Ah, I really would like to go outside," but just never do it. You have to
Right.
commit to doing that. So if it's birding that you are into, if it's flowers that you're into, there's a park for all of those things. And I just say, get out there and explore and get that connection to earth and self. That would be the
I
best
love that.
advice. Yeah.
I love that. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
that advice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always tell people because it can be overwhelming once you realize how many national park sites there are. You're like, whoa. I mean, even the 63 capital N, capital P, like that's a lot to
Yeah.
consider, visiting in a lifetime. So I always tell people to start with their state and like figure out what, if you want to go from small, like local parks to state parks to um, national park sites, then, you can
Yeah.
create something that makes sense for the resources you have, the networks, all of that stuff. But don't feel like you have to go to Florida if you are in Georgia and you don't even know what parks are in Georgia.
Yeah.
Always start with your state and work
Mhm.
from there. And I feel like it's a great opportunity to just be able to travel within your state to kind of have a variety of experiences, especially as it relates to the landscape and geography and things like that. I think we have 8 here in Ohio, and although I didn't get to experience the solar eclipse that we had at Cuyahoga Valley National Park, I'm sure people were, literally like, yes, there's this awesome national park in Ohio. Let's go there to have this experience, the totality of the eclipse and, birding and hiking and camping, like all of those things are really fun. Um, Speaking of opportunities and advice, if
Yeah.
you don't know this, and this is to the audience who's viewing, not so much Angie, and I'm sure you know this already too, but starting Saturday, this Saturday, April 20th through the 28th is National Park Week. So this is opportunity for you to explore, have a reason, I guess, to explore national parks in your state and get out and see what's happening during the spring. And I always think of the nature phenomena. So
Yeah.
what better week time to get out and do that? So thank you again,
Yeah.
Angie.
Yeah,
I
there's one
very
other
much
thing
appreciate
I
this.
wanted. Is there one other thing
Hmm.
I wanted to say was if you are a veteran or in the
Yeah.
military, you get a free national park pass. So
Yes.
definitely take advantage of that. That has been my lifesaver on
Yeah.
cutting costs and receiving discounts for camping and even
Hmm.
inside of the store at the visitor
Yes.
center too. So yeah,
Thank you so much for, yeah, that is totally true. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, so if you're a veteran, please check out the passes, the park passes. You can get those for free, and I think they have different groups. The costs are different depending on the group, but thank you so much for bringing up that because I know some people are still kind of like with things changing a lot with the national park system, what they have available to them. So appreciate you mentioning that.
yeah,
Well, this is our time, and if you want to rewatch, I again have this recorded on my YouTube channel, so feel free to go back to that if you want to rewatch this, or if you weren't able to watch it at this time, feel free to share with family and friends. I'm hoping to have another interview next week, so I'll be sharing more information about that. soon. And then also, because I've just been in planning mode and doing a bunch of other things, I still want to circle back to the event that I actually have planned. You mentioned Yosemite, Angie, and my Black Birders event that's happening in October at Yosemite National Park. And I will be working with the Shelton Johnson. He is an interpreter of the Buffalo Soldiers. We'll be working together to put this event into place. So I will be sharing updates on the registration and time and all that stuff soon. So I'm looking forward to that because I've yet to go to Yosemite. And Shelton has been wonderful in kind of like just keeping me engaged with the opportunities that we can have moving forward with programs and visits and stuff like that. So he's been wonderful. And we also have an interview on my YouTube channel that I did with him about the event. So feel free to watch that as well. So with that, I thank you, Angie.
Yeah.
Again, be sure to check out your website, which is
Excursionsbyangel.com, and my YouTube channel is Angel's Excursions.
awesome. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.